Welcome to Bearwood, a spectacular building with an extraordinary history. The mansion has lived countless lives and can tell a million stories. In this series, we will bring these tales to life and uncover pockets of time from Bearwood's past. Each episode will begin using a photo of Bearwood chosen by students here at REDDAM'S House. Welcome to the first floor, overlooking the front porch. In this episode, moving away from the Canadians in World War I, we are now going to explore Bearwood in World War II. By this time, the mansion had changed use once again. It was now the Royal Merchant Navy School for orphans whose parents had died at sea in merchant shipping. We're going to look more at the origins of the school as an orphanage later in the video. But for now, what was it like to be an orphan at Bearwood and experience the Second World War? Returning to the photo, here you can see a junior class taught by Miss Martin, who is very fondly remembered. The boys and girls seen here are no older than 7 or 8, and their time at Bearwood in the Second World War was very different to the school today. When the war came, with the risk of air raids and bombing, the mansion was turned upside down. The boys' dormitories were moved to the ground floor. The girls' dorms were on the first floor. Meanwhile, the second floor would not have been used for dormitories in the Second World War. Instead, they would have been classrooms, or in this instance, what is now the art class, used to be a common room for Grenville boys. If ever the air raid siren did sound, then everybody would descend here into the basement. Now, it's fair to say that boys and girls of the Royal Merchant Navy School did live quite separate lives. So I'm in the boys' part of the basement, which is separate to the girls' part over there. And even brothers and sisters who were at the school at the same time were kept apart as much as possible. They were only allowed to see each other once a week for a walk on a Sunday. This was somewhat true of the staff as well. There was a separate common room for masters and mistresses, but in the Second World War there was a staff shortage, and that's why for the first time we start to see classes of both boys and girls mixed together as per that Miss Martin class that you saw earlier. From the very bottom of the mansion to the very top, the tower was also a hive of activity during the Second World War. It was used as an observation post looking out for enemy planes, and in the daytime it would have been manned by senior boys from the Royal Merchant Navy School. At night, this job would have been performed by men from the local Home Guard. Indeed, if you speak to students that were here during the war, they will tell you stories of dogfights in the skies above Bearwood, and a bomb did actually land very close by in the churchyard of St. Catherine's. We must also remember, of course, that many students here would have seen action themselves, including, perhaps most notably, Lieutenant Commander Richard Bean Stannard, who attended the Royal Merchant Navy School from 1912 to 1918. Stannard was captain of the naval trawler HMT Arab, which needed to provide protection for ships entering and leaving the port of Namsos in Norway. Over a 5-day period in April 1940, the ship endured 31 air attacks, but despite persistent German bombing, the defensive position was so well planned that only one man was wounded, and Stannard safely brought the ship and her crew home. For this, he was awarded only the 2nd Naval Victoria Cross of the war, in recognition to his outstanding valour and devotion to duty. And the Victoria Cross was an award introduced in the Crimean War in the 19th century, in part following the war reporting of William Howard Russell for the Times. The orphanage and school has a fascinating history of its own, which stretches back long before its time at Bearwood. For its origins, we must venture to the City of London in 1827. At this point, John Walter II had not long since built the original house here at Bearwood. The orphanage had numerous sites across London, including at Snaresbrook from 1862. Stannard attended school here, but he did visit Bearwood numerous times. By the end of the First World War, it was time to move again. And Bearwood, with no more Canadian soldiers, and a Walter family that needed to sell the place, was perfect for a new home. This commemorative board pays homage to two men, Thomas Devitt and Alfred Yarrow. With their generosity, in 1919 they bought Bearwood from the Walters and gifted it to the Royal Merchant Seamen's Orphanage, which in 1935 was renamed the Royal Merchant Navy School. Now, this is interesting because it says that they bought the original buildings with 493 acres of land. So it was nothing like the 7,000 acres once owned by the Walters at the height of the estate. And it was instead a little bit more in keeping with the 300 or so acres originally bought by John Walter II in 1816. It mentions as well that the move from Snaresbrook to Bearwood took place on the 1st of March 1921, and it actually took 63 journeys to move all of the equipment from one building to another. Now, between 1919, when it was bought, and 1921, when it became a school, there needed to be many refurbishments to make sure that the building was fit for purpose as a school. And then, when the school developed from 1921, we see the arrival of many other buildings around the estate, which we all know today, including the Governor's House, built in 1921, the Dining Hall, built in 1922 to accommodate the whole school in a single sitting, the Gym, built in 1930, the Chapel, built in 1934 in memory of Earl Inchcape, chairman of the Peninsula and Oriental Steam Navigation Company, P&O. The stables were converted into an infirmary. It's now the Early Learning School. More recently, in Bearwood College days, the theatre was opened by the Queen in 1991, but that wasn't the first time she'd visited. Her first trip up there was in 1947, and next time, in our final episode, we're going to find out what that day was like from a very special guest who was there.